Hello and welcome to our little introduction to our visitor observation tool, visitors behavior. To start, you need to log in. You get the login password when you get your license. So you sign in and you're already on your dashboard. Here you can see a couple of exhibitions we've programmed for demonstration purposes. This was the last one. Just to start with this line here, you can see you can either edit or you can delete. For the purpose of this demonstration, you delete the exhibition and create a new one. So you put in exhibition name. Let's call this forest. The area has 200 square meters. Unless you want to use square feet, then you would have to change the measure over here. You can distinguish between different rooms. Then you would have to add those different rooms, which in the final report show up in different colors. For the purpose of the actual observation, you need to define the objects you're going to evaluate. Let's say we have a panel. That's the introduction to the exhibition. Then you get this field. Here you can see the name panel introduction. You can change it if you want, if you need to. And here, if you want, it's optional, but we suggest that you put in the amount of time visitors usually need to make full use of this specific object. That helps you to get an immediate feedback in the report when you see the numbers. So ideal duration for reading this panel introduction would be, let's say, 23 seconds. You've measured that by asking like 5 to 6 people, potential visitors, to read the text and then simply use the average. To set the position in the exhibition, you need to drag and drop a map image here or click and select. I've got a fictitious exhibition map here for the purpose of this introduction. So you can see you just have to move this exhibition map to the screen and it's already ready to be used. So we set the position of this panel introduction. Let's say this is the panel introduction. I didn't push the button now. So that's the panel introduction. We have a second object. Let's say it's a video on climate. We add that. We know how long it takes. Let's assume it's 125 seconds. We set the position over here. And then we realized, oh, that's not the spot where it is. The video is shown here. But that's no problem. You just push the button set position again and move to the correct spot, which would be here. So now this is defined as video on climate change. You might want to know whether the visitors are sitting or standing. Sits down. Stands. So these would be examples for potential object observations. I did not add any object observation here, so that's optional again. If you have different rooms, you would define those here for the program to know where to put which observation afterwards. The age groups, you don't have to do this. Then in that case, you would get a a ready-made age group breakdown afterwards. If you want to use it because you have a specific age group breakdown for your exhibition, you click here and let's say you define 14 to 18 years, 19 to 25, 26 to 35, etc. Oh, I forgot we have a third object. That's an interactive globe. And this interactive globe, you've tested it and it takes at least 97 seconds. You set the position over here. In case you need to know, for whatever reason, where exactly the visitor is standing, you would need to define those spots as well. Then you would call this maybe interactive globe 1 and then interactive globe 2, 3 and 4. Certainly with the interactive globe, you want to know whether he or she used the globe. Maybe because it's a very attractive object, you want to know whether the visitor took photos. So with the video climate, you have those specific observations, whether he or she sits down, standing. Here, whether the visitor used the globe or took photos. And you can also define standardized behaviors to be protocoled anywhere in the exhibition. So if you see that somebody, for example, is tired, then you could define that behavior, or took photos somewhere else in the exhibition. So then you wouldn't know where the visitor took those photos, but you know that somebody was taking photos. Or visitors discusses the content. So you're already set for evaluate for your first observation. You only have to finalize this. You only have to push the button create exhibition down here on the right corner. Maybe you realized, oops, I forgot something. Then, as I said, you can edit the programming again, and maybe you said I need to add another age group, 36 to 45. You add that and then you update the exhibition down here. Now you're ready, and you can either push the button forest here or forest there. Danger zone is also here. You can delete the program if you need to. But that's why our programmer called this the danger zone. Now to observe, you need to add visitors, which is up here. So you add visitors by clicking this button, and he or she's entering the room over here, leaving the room over here. You start the stopwatch. Somebody's entering, and luckily immediately goes to the panel introduction. You push the panel introduction, it appears red, and also this little box which contains, in this case over here, object specific behavior items. So you can either push this button in the exhibition, or you push the button, the visitor moves on to the interactive globe, or you push the button in the little box, like over here, visitor arrived. yes, the visitor sits down, and when the visitor is leaving, you either again push this little dot or in the box over here, visitor left object. This person's not using the interactive globe, leaving, so no behavior, no standardized behavior you're observing, so the visitor just leaves the room and you push this button. So now everything's in the protocol, where, how long, and what the visitor did. So you can add your name, the gender of the visitor, age group, temperature and weather. You don't have to. You can take notes if you want, but you don't have to. So then you go back to save visitor, and now this observations in the system, which you can see up here, visitors. Here you can have a look at those observations you've made if you need to. We add 2 more visitors. Somebody's entering. We start the stopwatch. This person's looking, watching the video on climate. Again, sits down. Visitor arrived and sits down. And after a while, this visitor leaves. Now I'm pushing the button instead of the box, and discusses maybe the video, but then this person leaves the exhibition. So you push the button, visitor left room. Again, now you have all the time you need to fill in the social demographic details. Visitor gender, age, notes, maybe was rushed by his group. Okay, you're done, so you save this visitor. Let's add a third one. Visitors entering, we start the stopwatch. Yes, again, this visitor reads the introduction panel. For the purpose of this introduction, we cut this a little short. This person's also watching the video on climate, and again sits down. And after having watched the video, this visitor goes to the interactive globe, takes photos, and after a while leaves. Leaves through the door, so visitor left the room, and there you are. Just add the details of your observation, gender, visitor age, no notes. That's it. You save the visitor. So now you have up here, you can have a look at each of the 3 visitors you've evaluated, and you also get a report. So for a report you need at least 3 observations. Here you have the digital version of the report. So the average duration was 55 seconds per visitor, which was a median of 49 seconds. And on average, these 3 visitors watched or stopped at 2 objects. Here you can see the number of visitors was 3. So if there's a breakdown in various rooms, then you have a respective breakdown of visitors per room here. Here you have an illustration of the visitors at each object. So 2 visitors at the introduction panel. All 3 visitors watched the video on climate. Only 1 used the interactive globe. So object level observations, the video on climate, 3 visitors sat down. So this color you can see down here sits down at the video on climate and at the interactive globe. Somebody took photos, so 1 person took a photo. Then here we have time spent on object, and here you can see immediately if on average time was enough to really go through this panel, which was not the case here in our little test. On average 14 seconds instead of 23 seconds which you needed. Same with the video on the climate, that has a length of 125 seconds and the visitor will stayed on average 14 seconds. Same with the interactive globe. So here you can see that immediately you get some hard data on the question whether visitors were long enough at a given object. So here we have a distribution of how many objects each visitor has seen, and then the social demographic data, gender distribution, age distribution, plus, and this is I'm very thankful that Beverly Sorrell, well-known visitor researcher, she gave us her data on a lot of observations she had made and from which she developed a duration index or a so-called thorough use index. So how well was a particular exhibition used? To understand the position of your, in this case, this is the result of our observation, the overall result, compared to all these other observations. To understand the meaning of this position, you need to have a look at the thorough use index from Beverly Sorrell, which we have included down here. Well, that's it. You can download a PDF report. Gives you the same breakdown of the data. So you either use it as a ready-made report or you can do, for example, screenshots for a little PowerPoint. Now, in case you need any help, you have any questions, here's a little documentation, very comprehensive, that gives you the details on how to use the program. Here you can change to German, which since this is an English introduction, you probably don't need. I hope this little introduction gave you a good overview. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. That was it. I'm signing out, and we hope to hear from you. All the best. Bye-bye.